It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. Are you looking for some really fun cards with movements? Today we're going to be creating two amazing swing cards. Welcome everyone. I'm Connie Stewart with SimplySimpleStamping.com. I am so excited to teach you some tips and tricks for creating the perfect swing card. Let's get started. So we're going to start with this beautiful Thinking of You Today card. I love this one. Thinking of you today and the day after that and the day after that and the day after that and so on. Isn't that going to be a great card? Very mantle-worthy. I love how it stands up. Friends, I have got tips and tricks to creating swing cards so easy. So let's talk very quickly about the supplies you need. And guess what? You don't need a lot. I have got a card base that is 4 1/4 by 11 inches. I have that scored at 2 3/4 and 5 1/2 inches. I've got 2 pieces of Very Vanilla. I have a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and this one here is 3 1/4 by 4 5/8. And we're also going to bring in a piece of Petal Pink. That is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. All right, now you are going to need a die set for this one. So this is a die cutting project. I'm going to be using the Scallop Contours dies for this one. And I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and get started with the die cutting. We'll get all that out of the way, then we'll do our stamping. I'm going to start with the largest die. And I'm going to die cut this wonderful little scallop. This is for the inside of my card. We're going to cut that from the center of my Petal Pink. While we've got our dies out, we're going to take the other 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and let's skip one. So we're going to go down, and I want to die cut 2 of these scallops here, all right, from that Very Vanilla. That's what we're going to be doing our stamping on. But don't let this one get too far away from you, because I'm going to show you the trick to making the swing card. All right, I have those cut. I'm going to set these aside, and now we are going to bring in the Highland Heather. For our die cutting, we need base plate 1, thin die adapter 2, and cutting plate 3. I'm going to set this one off to the side for a second because I've got a trick to share. So there is that 2 3/4 inch score line. I'm going to take my die. Now this one has that perfect scallop on it, and so it's real easy for me to see how to center it up. I can see right here in the scallop that I just want to find the center one. Again, it's really not difficult. We're going to line that up. Okay, see how we have that set at all 3 sides? I'm actually going to slide this way down, and I'm going to slide cutting plate 3. See, I'm just kind of keeping it up and sliding it in. I'm going to take the edge of that cutting plate. All right, can you see I have the cutting plate sitting right on that score line? So what this is going to ensure is this section is the only thing that's going to cut. When this goes through my machine, of course, the roller in my machine cannot cut this. So that is a great little tip for you. I'm going to kind of hold this in place while I get it started. Right before you go and you're ready to cut through, I'm just going to give it just a quick tilt. I want to make sure everything's good. And now we can run that through. And now I can share with you the magic here. So when I remove this die, do you see what we did? So I'm going to fold this over on that other score line, and that's how to make a swing card. Yeah, do you know you could do this with any of your rectangle shapes, but I've got another card I'm going to share with you. We're going to use the deckled rectangles. But now that we have that, let's do a little creating. All right, first things first, let's go ahead and give these 2 score lines here a good crease with our bone folder. This line that's right here in the middle, don't even worry about it. It's not going to show. We're going to be covering that up. But first, let's do some stamping with a Highland Heather ink pad. And I'm going to feature the Painted Lavender stamp set. I loved this stamp set. It is absolutely beautiful, but I do love lavender, I must admit. But do you notice something? There is no sentiment in this stamp set. So I brought in a sentiment stamp set, and I chose Hope You Know. I thought this one was going to be a great one. We're going to do just a fun Thinking of You card. Now let's go ahead and bring in our big stamp of lavender, and we're going to do some stamping just on this edge. Now, I've got a secret to share with you. Do you notice I'm hitting that? Doesn't matter. It's going to be totally covered up. You will not see it at all, so I'm not worried about having to, you know, keep that from getting ink on it. It's going to be just fine. So you notice I'm only going around the edges, and that is all. While I have that ink pad and that stamp out, I'm going to bring in that other piece of Very Vanilla. This was the, what was that, 4 5/8, I believe. And I'm going to stamp some lavender down here in the corner. And hey, let's go ahead and bring in one of our scallops. Let's stamp that lavender here in the right corner. But after I stamp it, I'm going to give it just a little twist, all right? I'm not going to re-ink, but do you see how we got that nice soft, you know, kind of like a nice little two-tone there? I'm going to bring in a crumb cake ink pad. Let's go ahead and get my sentiment, thinking of you today. Now I'm going to bring in my petal pink, and I have got a stamp here that has 2 butterflies. So one is a flittering butterfly, and I want to just stamp that one. So here's another little Tuesday tip for you. Do you see how I'm just inking up just that one single butterfly? I'm just staying right there on the edge of the ink pad, and I'm going to stamp that butterfly right there. Now I'm going to go ahead and ink up both of them. And we're going to add a couple butterflies there. Now let's create the inside scallop, and we're going to stamp our, and the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after that, and so on. We're doing that in some crumb cake. Now we're going to bring in some old olive to stamp some grass down here at the bottom. Oh friends, this has been one of my most loved stamp sets from the new mini catalog for January through April 2024. But I do, like I said, I just love lavender. So I'm going to bring in my Highland Heather one more time, and I'm going to stamp some lavender. You notice I'm kind of skipping, all right? So I'm kind of skipping around. Now I'm going to flip the stamp over. Again, this is just going to give it a little more texture. And now I can stamp right in between. And you notice you really don't need to be neat about it because, you know, lavender grows just kind of where it wants to grow. Friends, I think it's time to put a card together. Can you believe how fast and easy that was? Okay, we're going to bring in our stamped card base. Remember, this is the one that we did not make it look pretty. All right, so to adhere this, I've got a tip for you. I'm going to flip my card, and I'm going to kind of get that front out of the way for just a minute. So here is the front of my card, and I want it to line up perfectly. And of course it will because we use that die. Can you see? We want to just line up all the edges there, get that set. Beautiful. So there is the front of my card. I'll go ahead and I can now flip that over. So got that. All right, now we're going to take the inside of our card. We're going to do that same thing. We're just going to line it up. I've taken that petal pink, that giant scallop that we did, and then that Very Vanilla. This is where we're going to write our message. And let's just top it off with a little ribbon. I've got a little knot here from the Real Red and burlap ribbon combo. I just press that onto a mini glue dot, and it's going to go right up there in the corner. Just make sure it's on the Highland Heather and not on the Very Vanilla, or it's going to have a hard time swinging. So make sure that that's up there in the corner. Friends, that is how you make a really beautiful swing card. Would you like to see another?
I mentioned earlier that free download. Guys, you can get this for free at simplysimplestamping.com, or if you look down in the YouTube description, there's a direct link to today's post. This download has everything you need, the measurements, the supply list, a link back to this video if you need a refresher, and of course, a place that you can order any of the supplies that I used on the project. Friends, if you are in the United States, I would love to be your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. With that, let's move on to card number 2.
This card features the Sweet Songbird stamp set, and I just thought this one was really fun. It's going to be great for kids or for adults because, let's face it, it's so cute. A little birdie told me, it's your special day. You've got something to celebrate. This one's another very easy one, and like I said, we're going to use a different die set. Let's use the deckled rectangles on this. And do you notice this one has a border? Okay, so this one is done a little bit different, but don't worry, I'm going to show you everything you need to know.
So this card I did in Melon Mambo. Again, 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 2 3/4 and 5 1/2. And then I simply have 2 pieces of basic white, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. All right, I've got my deckled rectangles, and the first thing I want to do is I want to take the largest deckled rectangle, and I'm going to die cut a rectangle. This will be for the inside of my card, so we'll go get that one done. Next, we are going to take the 4th from the smallest, okay? And I want, just like we did before, remember the last one we did those scallops. So I'm going to die cut 2 of these from my other piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. All right, I have those cut. Now, I used this rectangle, so let me bring these back in. I'm going to go one size bigger than what I just cut, all right? So this will be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This will be the 5th from the smallest. So we're going to die cut our swing just like we did before. But here's the thing, it was a little hard for me to find the center of this die. The last die, I had a scallop that made it really easy. This one was a little bit more difficult. Now I do have some lines here, and I'm going to show you how I did that. So this is just a great trick. Guys, this is just copy paper, okay? You could use junk mail, you could use an old magazine, whatever you want. This is just kind of like a little template for me, okay? I fold it in half, that's easy enough. I'm going to lay it here inside my die, and that's how I was able to just make a couple marks there with a Sharpie there on my die. So I knew right where the center was. If you didn't want to do that, you could even go ahead and just temporarily lay this right here. All right. Then you can take your die and line it up that way. Whatever works for you, okay? But that is a great tip for if you're not sure where the center of your cardstock is. All right, so you remember how we did this. I'm going to slide this all the way down. I take my top cutting plate and I put it right on that score line. Now, I have the ability to move this around. I'm just going to hold on to the die, hold on to the cardstock, get that set. I'm now ready to run that through my machine. And of course, we get that wonderful swing, right? There we go. Time to do some stamping. I'm going to start with a Melon Mambo ink pad, and I'm going to take this adorable little flower and stamp it all around my swing. Now, remember the other one that I said, if we hit the edge, it's fine. It's not fine here, all right? So, in fact, you know what? I've got this. I could just slide that in there. It's just there to protect. This is why I said it's kind of great when you can just maybe use some junk mail or whatever you want, because we're going to be kind of messing it up. It's just there as a guide. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stamp these flowers. And now I'm going to come in with a basic black marker. You could also use a Sharpie, whatever you've got. Let's color in the centers of our flowers. All right, I'm going to set my swing card out of the way. Let's do a little stamping. So we'll start with the front. So this will be one of our deckled rectangles. In Pecan Pie, we're going to stamp tree trunk. We're going to add that there. Let's come in with Parakeet Party. And we're going to add some leaves. And they just stamp right there. Really an easy card to work with, and I love this stamp set. In the Daffodil Delight, we're going to stamp the bird. Now, there are 2 birds in this stamp. So we have a larger one and a smaller one. For this, on the front, I want to go with the larger one. Let her perch herself just right there. Now, there's also a wing in this stamp set. And again, remember, there's a larger one and a smaller one. I'm going to ink it up, and then I'm going to stamp off because I want just a little bit softer Daffodil Delight. See how that fills in? Just a little pumpkin pie beak, and we have a stamp for that too. A couple eyes there in Pecan Pie, and we're going to let's bring in that little flower again. We use this little flower a lot on this project. We're going to give her a little flower in her hair, and let's go ahead and color that in. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stamp the sentiment here, and that sentiment is a little birdie told me ... So I'm going to set that off to the side. And what did a little birdie told me? It's your special day. So I'm going to stamp it's your special day. And I'm going to do it at an angle. I love stamping at an angle when I'm not sure if I can get it straight. Just works great for me. I'm going to bring in that tree trunk again, and of course some leaves. We'll stamp that right there. This one we're going to use the smaller bird. So this one will be that smaller bird, and she's going to go right there. And let me grab that smaller wing. We're going to follow that same thing that we did where we just kind of stamped off. She needs some feet, right? She's kind of hanging there. So let's bring in little feet. And for this, let's change up the eyes. She's gonna give us a little squint. Boop, so cute. And of course our beak in pumpkin pie, and get our flower. Now the inside of our card, we're going to make it not a branch, but an actual tree trunk. I'm going to stamp a few leaves. So I'm going to go there, and then I'm going to kind of rotate this stamp. Yeah, about right there looks good. See how we can just get some extra leaves? We'll rotate it again, and we'll go about right there. That's fine. Let's bring in some of those flowers just to add to our tree. Give those a quick fill. And one more sentiment, you've got something to celebrate. Let's add that to the inside of our card. It's your special day. You notice it has that little border, so we don't have to be quite as finicky about this one. Now for our little birdie told me, let's come in with those Stampin' Dimensionals. Dimensionals are something else that's just a little bit different than our first card. But because we've got that little frame there, I think it works perfectly. All right, let's add a knot. This is the white glittered organdy ribbon. Add that there in the corner. I'm telling you, who is not going to smile the biggest smile when they get that card? And friends, that's all there is to creating a swing card. Look at the dies that you have. What else might work there? Have some fun, get creative. And of course, once you create those cards, it's time to pop them in the mail and make somebody smile.
Thank you guys so much for joining me today. If you like the video, I would love a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, why not click the subscribe button? I'd love to have you join us here on the channel. Make it a great day, everyone. Can't wait to stamp with you next time. Bye-bye.